Welcome to a demonstration of the Hedvig distributed storage platform. We'll use the Hedvig web interface to look at some of Hedvig's key capabilities. The interface is fully customizable. You can pick from a number of different color themes or skins. For this demo, we're using our retro green screen console theme. Once we log in, we land in the cluster watch screen, and we see a map of our storage system. In this case, a 15-node cluster with 204 terabytes. As we hover over, we see each node has a metadata and a data process. Metadata tracks how and where data is written to the cluster, and the data process is responsible for storing the actual data to physical disk. Hedvig scales these together to deliver great performance and resiliency even as the cluster grows. We also see from this view that there are 20 hosts configured with access to the storage cluster. In the virtual disk management screen, we see a list of each virtual disk provisioned on the cluster. You can select various properties to build your own custom view. To add a new virtual disk, simply click Add Disk, and we're presented with an intuitive screen that lets us choose from a number of parameters and policies. We give the disk a name, and we choose the size. Let's provision a 1 terabyte virtual disk and keep the disk type as block. We can also choose a replication policy for this virtual disk to indicate how we want the data to be replicated across the cluster. Rack-aware distributes data across different racks in the same data center to offer protection against localized failure. Data center aware replicates to one or more data centers, which can also be a public cloud. In the dropdown, we simply pick the appropriate location. Agnostic tells the cluster to replicate data with no specific preference for where the copies are placed. Replication factor sets how many copies to create, anywhere from a single copy all the way to 6. We can also set a number of provisioning options, including inline compression, client-side flash caching, and inline global deduplication. We can even indicate that we want this virtual disk pinned to flash to guarantee an all-flash experience for high performance. And finally, we can choose block size from 512 bytes up to 64K. Once we select Run, the Hedvig storage service then provisions the disk on the cluster. The system shows an alert that the disk was added, so let's go to the disk and add access so a host can begin to utilize this resource. First, we add the LUN to a specific host. Next, we'll give access to one of the VMs on this system, which will then connect to the virtual disk as an iSCSI LUN. Here we see a summary of the disk details. But let's next go into our monitoring screen for this particular host. Here we can monitor the activity and performance for the provisioned disks. Let's select IOPS, and we'll see our read-write disk activity and performance. Let's return to our Add Disk screen to provision another volume. This time, we'll provision a simple NFS virtual disk. We'll make this one also 1 terabyte and simply accept all of the default settings. We'll give access by exporting the disk to the same host we used for the block disk. To show how easy it is to consume the virtual disk resource, let's drop directly into VMware and select Add Storage. We tell VMware where the disk resource is provisioned, and we give our data store a unique name. Let's provision a Linux server on our added storage. In just a few clicks, and in just a few seconds, we provision our storage, attach to a hypervisor, and provisioned a server. If we browse this resource, we can see the files that make up this particular VM. And what I want to show you is very simply that back on our Hedvig cluster, we can actually browse directly from the Hedvig UI, where we see, in fact, the same folders and the same file structure reflected that we just provisioned out on VMware. Let's return to the block disk we provisioned just a moment ago to see how quick and how easy it is to take snapshots and create clones with the Hedvig solution. Select Snapshot from the menu, and from here we simply click New Snapshot, and a snapshot is instantly created. Snapshots are unlimited on the Hedvig platform and are achieved instantly, all taking place in metadata. To show how easy and flexible it is to make a clone, we pick one of the point-in-time snapshots and select Clone. We're presented with a screen quite similar to our initial provisioning screen. Here we have the flexibility to change policy settings to be different from the source disk. For example, let's change the residence for clones from hard disk to flash and reduce the replication factor from 3 to 2. We can create one clone, but we can also create multiple by using the batch capability. Give it any quantity and indicate how to name and number the clones. Let's go ahead and create 10 at the same time. Let's select Run, and our 10 cloned virtual disks are ready to go. And for our last view into the cluster, let's go back to the cluster watch. We'll select one of our nodes to have a quick look at the layout and the status of what we call storage pools. Here, the carousel view shows us each storage pool on this particular host, each made up of 3 drives and each holding a number of what we call containers. The watermark gives us an instant view of the utilized capacity of each storage pool. By clicking on one of the storage pools, we can quickly see the details on total used capacity by drive, and also see the current state of each container. With that, we return to our cluster watch. Hedvig has been designed to transform how you deliver storage to your enterprise with the power of distributed systems, the simplicity of cloud, and a complete set of enterprise capabilities. Thank you for watching.